We'll call the meeting to order. I'm sorry, this with our technical aspects here. This is another first, but Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Mrs. Hurst?
Present.
Attorney Murphy?
Present.
Ms.
Okay.
Naylor?
Present.
Ms. Gresham?
Present.
Ms. Perez?
Present.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mayor Sarno?
President, can we all please rise for a moment of silence? I'd like to dedicate this to Coach Kamari Williams. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which is one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And first of all, to each and every one of your families, I hope you're doing well and staying healthy. And I appreciate that we're able to get together. And I also want to give a special shout out to Denise Hurst, President John Cook. Thank you very much to allow me to help out the homeless there on Worthington Street with the parking lot. We appreciate that. And John Fish called me from President of Suffolk, who was the big benefactor for Springfield scholar athletes. They are going to continue online, virtual education with 10 schools on that. So he called me.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was today or yesterday on it. So with that, we'll go to approval of the minutes. This is approved the minutes of March 12th, 2020 regular school committee meeting. Any comments or questions, or is there a motion?
Move we accept.
Motion by Vice Chair Collins. Is there a second? Roll call. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Perez. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Now move to voting items. A is to approve the amended FY21 budget calendar. Superintendent Warwick, please.
Yeah, it's coming out of committee. I don't know, Chris, do you want to take
Vice
this
Chair
or want me to
Collins?
go through it?
Sure, it is, the calendar is the same, the dates remained the same. All we did was change the locations of the remaining meetings to be Focus Springfield, Channel 17, and Zoom. That's, in a nutshell, that's all we did was change. Even the public hearing, hopefully we'll have everything worked out by then so that the public can speak. And the night of speak out, everybody has to get permission 48 hours in advance anyway. So that one's going to be easier. But we're just changing the location. Nothing else is changing. We're going to keep trying to remain on track, setting our budget under this calendar, just change the locations.
Any questions or comments?
Student Opportunity Act.
Student Opportunity Act, thank you, Pat. It's noted on the bottom of it, just like it was the last time that we passed,
We voted it, yeah.
that it will, as we said before, it's going to go to the schools. They'll set their plans together. If the state ends up tweaking the budget, that's probably the area where they're going to tweak it. So having it set up that way we did in advance that way is going to make it easier for the schools, because we can say don't go forward with those portions just yet till we know what funding is. And I don't think we'll know probably till June what the state's going to do with its budget. Or later, they may do a 1/12 budget.
Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Motion by, I believe it was Ms. Hurst or Ms. Naylor?
This is Ms. Naylor.
Ms. Naylor, sorry. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Hurst. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passed. Thank you very much. D is to approve changing April vacation into school days. Superintendent Warwick, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I put this on the calendar written this way, just so that if folks disagreed with my recommendation, you'd be able to vote it tonight. But the commissioner let us know that we could change the April vacation to online learning time and then end school 4 days earlier. I'm recommending against it. Most districts are not going with this recommendation for a lot of reasons. One, if we happen to get back in session, the kids are going to need those days with their teachers. Another one is I think a lot of folks already made plans, and this would be difficult for them. I've talked to my cabinet, and they were 100% in favor of keeping our April vacation. And in talking to our unions, they also are in favor of keeping our April vacation. So I'm recommending against any change, but I just want to let you know the commissioner did allow districts to consider it. I think it's bad for students, so I'm against it.
Any questions or comments on Superintendent Warwick's recommendation?
I guess my question,
Oh, Ms. Naylor, I'm sorry.
I do have a question. So I understand the logic behind it. I guess my question is that with there being so many restrictions on travel and everything like that, that it's likely that most families are still not going to be able to go anywhere during that week. So, I mean, if it was under certain other circumstances, I think I'd probably be okay with it, but I just feel that people can't go anywhere anyways. So that's just my reasoning behind it, but I do also have a question. If we decide to forego and keep it at April vacation, then will kids still have access to food during that week through Sodexo?
Yes.
Yes, they would have access to food. Yeah.
By the way, we've nearly reached 200,000 meals served to our students and families. That's 3 meals a day plus snacks. Unheard of what we've been able to do here in the city of Springfield, besides a laptop, which you get a report coming on it. So, Superintendent Warwick, could you clarify your recommendation?
My recommendation is based on several things, actually. But I think you're right. Some people are not going to be traveling, obviously. But I think people, a lot of folks feel they need the vacations in talking with the union. And I feel that if we can get back into session for kids, losing those days in June, it would be a tragic loss of learning time. And this just isn't the same. And that's why I think it's pro-student to give the kids the opportunity to get that learning time should we get back in session.
Okay.
And I think a lot of teachers and folks have been working really hard to get this online going, and they feel they need a break. So I think for a lot of reasons, I don't think it's a good idea.
May I?
So,
Ms. Hurst.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So that's really helpful to hear, Mr. Superintendent, because I think I had been thinking about that since I saw the agenda and was wondering, what difference would it make? Because I was thinking along the same lines as Mrs. Naylor, which is, where are people going? But it does make sense that if we are able to get back to school, then we would want those 4 extra days in June. And I did hear from a teacher today by way of social media that they did feel as though they had been working round the clock around trying to provide the best virtual or remote learning and just needed some days to kind of recoup from that. So I'd support your recommendation. I'm glad you provided that perspective because I wouldn't have even have thought of that.
The other thing is, I think the reason it wasn't so important to us is we had a good end date at June 19th. Some of the districts that were thinking they'd go along with this, they didn't start as early as we did, and they were going to be going up near July 1. And of course, they're trying to get those days back.
Yeah,
so for a lot of good reasons, this just makes more sense for us in my estimation.
That's a good point, Superintendent, because you're right. There were some that were backing up right to July 1st on it. So any other questions or comments? I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. I don't see it.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Gresham's Hollywood Squares.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to commend Sodexo for all that they've done for our students and families during this time.
Thank you, Barbara.
They've really done a really good job.
Positively incredible. Thank you, Barbara. They've been absolutely incredible. Pat Roach and his team working with Sodexo, beyond all expectations, what they've been able to do for us and our kids. Incredible.
Just to let you know, I heard from the officials in the eastern part of the state that we're way ahead of the curve when it comes to the meal programs, our response, laptop. Some haven't done, we're 2-3 weeks ahead of it. So I'm not surprised because I think we've been tested and true in dealing with these unfortunate situations. But thank you, Barbara. I know my cabinet heads report, which Dan's on every morning too, 190, yeah, we're gonna be nearly 200,000 meals.
Wow.
Wow.
I can hear you clap. I can hear you clapping too, Latonia. Ms. Perez, did you?
Yes.
The boxes light up here, so, school committee woman, Maria Perez?
Yes, I just want to say kudos to the educators because I have been meeting with several parents and the students are doing their homework and their communication has been great. So kudos to them and thank you for taking care of our students.
Everybody's pitched in and worked together from administration to teachers, even in the schools, a custodian. Everybody's working together, and we deeply appreciate everybody's efforts and the technical aspects, the hands-on aspects. It's been there'll be a lot of good stories coming out of this challenging situation, and hopefully that'll champion the day. Superintendent Warren?
I'm really proud of our staff. They've really stepped up and everyone's making every effort to reach out in every different kind of venue possible to our kids and our families. So our staff's been great and everyone stepped up. Very proud of them.
All right, I'm going to make the motion the way that it is written on the agenda, so there's no confusion. If you intend to follow the superintendent's recommendation, you would vote no on my motion. To approve changing the April vacation to school days. That's my motion. To approve changing the April vacation into school days, and if you want to follow the superintendent's recommendation, you vote no.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst,
No.
Attorney Murphy,
No.
Ms. Naylor,
No.
Ms. Gresham,
No.
Ms. Perez,
No.
Mr. Collins,
No.
Mayor Sarno.
No, more than sufficient vote, this matter passes. Thank
Matter
you.
fails.
Matter fails, but passes and fails in a good way.
That's the way we want it.
Nope. Okay, and we'll, by the way, too, happy Passover and happy Easter to everyone that's viewing us from myself and the school committee members and staff. We'll now move to informational items. A is computer laptop distribution update. Superintendent Warwick, this was a wise investment that we all made a few years ago. Superintendent Warwick?
Yeah, again, thanks to the school committee, we actually made a wise investment in technology. And thank God we did because we were able to really move forward with this plan. So my teams worked together, looking at the commissioner's recommendations and putting together a remote learning plan.
Oh.
And we put it all into one package, and you're going to see it coming up on the screen.
Yeah.
But with a remote learning plan and the laptop distribution, now the learning, of course, is tied to the technology. But Stefania and Paul always work together, and Paul's focus has always been what's the best, how to use the technology to improve learning for students. So they're going to give you an update on how we're trying to proceed through this process, both with the laptop distribution and the remote learning plan, which we are executing. So I'll turn it over to Paul and Stefania.
Good evening. So
Should be up on the screen.
Are you going to launch? There we go.
Yep.
Okay.
And I
I'm
think
gonna
actually
minimize this.
we have this in order where, if it's all right with the school committee, I think Stefania is going to take it away first and talk about the remote learning piece, and then I can update on the laptops.
Okay, thank you. So as we know, this is all new for everyone. And so we did come up with a remote learning plan as well as a way to get laptops to all the students. So phase one of the remote learning plan was that we gave resources and web links that were organized by grade level and content. And everything was posted to the Springfield Public Schools website. And that was posted on March 16th. So we tried to do that as quickly as we knew that schools were closed. Phase 2 was that we had printed ELA and math packets for grades kindergarten to 8th, and copies were made and available at all the food distribution sites, and those were available as of March 23rd. Along with that was a resource for students with disabilities and English language learners. It was a sheet that had access to Padlet, where there was a whole bunch of different learning activities for students and their families. The third phase was the remote learning guidance, which was provided to schools on March 31st. And then the laptop distribution commenced on April 6th. So the remote learning guidance was developed based on what the commissioner had put out to all districts in Massachusetts. And then there's a possible phase 4, which we're waiting to see if schools are ultimately closed for the rest of the year. And then that would shift our guidance in grading expectations for the fourth marking period and finals. So there are many guiding principles in the remote learning document. In there, we provided instructional activities, and because we wanted meaningful learning opportunities for half the length of the regular school day. So that was what was proposed by the commissioner. That's how long students should be engaged in learning tasks. We discussed reinforcing standards that had already been taught as opposed to new content. So we knew that standards had already been taught, and that's what we wanted to reinforce. We wanted teachers to work collaboratively to create and share learning activities. We had a wide variety of learning opportunities, which were not all technology-based, which could include teacher-guided, but also student-directed learning. We wanted students to have opportunities to connect with educators multiple times a week. And it could just be focused on well-being. It didn't necessarily have to be direct instruction. We also wanted students to have access to instructional activities across content areas. So all subjects they should have access to those activities. They should be encouraged to engage in physical activity daily. And finally, they should have electives and specials such as music, art, visual and performing arts. So in order to support all students, we have supplements to the remote learning guide. One that outlines guidance for students with disabilities. So special education teachers, their instructional activities have to directly address the goals and benchmarks in students' IEPs. And the district is currently working on getting technology tools to all students and providing them with services like speech therapy remotely. The other supplement we have is for English language learners, and students will be able to participate in their ESL instructional activities based on their level. Remote learning grading. So we were 7/10 of the way through the third marking period when schools closed, and all teachers are going to give third marking period grades based on work that was completed through March 12th. And no students will receive a grade below D-. And this was discussed at length, and students always have opportunities to make up work. And because we closed so abruptly, students did not have that same opportunity, and we thought we should give them the benefit of the doubt. Fourth marking period. There's a decision pending whether schools reopen or the closure runs through the end of the school year. And the Department of Ed is recommending credit or no credit for the fourth marking period, but that also raises the question of what level of work is considered or not considered to require credit or no credit. And then finally, final grades for secondary. The decision is pending again whether schools reopen or stay closed through the rest of the school year. And we need to consider we don't want students' grades to be negatively impacted by the closure. And we don't want any equity issues if they didn't have access to technology or the ability to engage in remote activities. So we want to make sure that we are being fair and equitable to all students.
Stefan, you want me to speak to this one?
Sure.
Okay, so as we shift into the technology, these are some of the tools. I don't need to go through all of them, but these are some of the tools that we are recommending.
Paul, stats, just in case, I didn't know if any school committee members had any questions or comments pertaining to Ms. Rochella's presentation first, or we can hold them until after you're done. Just school committee members?
I had just one question to
Ms. Hurst?
about the third marking period. I heard Ms. Rochella talk about we were 7 weeks through. We were in week 7. How many weeks in total are there or were there in the third marking period?
There was almost 3 weeks left.
3 weeks?
Almost 3 weeks, yeah.
I was Superintendent Warwick.
So we were more than 70% through. So that's why we came to that decision. It made the most sense. We could give the kids the actual grade based on what they did. But again, not giving any Fs because some students would have had time to do makeup work that they didn't have a chance to do.
Ms. Hurst or any other school committee members, any other questions? Okay, hearing.
I have a question, sir.
Yeah, Ms.
I have a
Naylor?
question. Yeah, going back to the third marking period and the D-, and I understand that we're not going to give any students an F, which makes sense. But even with 3 weeks left and students not being able to plan for that being the end of the marking period, I'm concerned if there are some students who may still be in jeopardy going into that fourth marking period of needing to repeat or needed to take summer school and how that might impact since they did not have a chance to complete their work.
Yeah, that's why we didn't allow anyone giving them an F. We didn't allow them to get an F, so it wouldn't, they wouldn't be failing the course based on that. That's why we changed it. We took the F option away.
So if a kid, let's say a kid got a D- the first 2 marking periods and they ended up with a D- again the third marking period, and the fourth marking period is credit or no credit, that kid is probably going to have to take summer school or.
Oh, they're going to pass.
Oh, they'll pass. Okay.
Yeah, they'll pass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Ms.
Okay.
Perez? Ms.
Yeah,
Perez?
no, the question was answered. That was exactly my question. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions?
We deliberated long and hard to make sure the kids weren't penalized in any way by this. And again, we were a good bit through, so we thought giving them a grade was the fairest thing, but not giving them an F because some students do make up things before the end of the quarter. So we thought this was the best accommodation for third quarter. Fourth quarter, highly likely will be in the credit, no credit piece that the commissioner recommended.
Thank you, Superintendent Warwick. Any other questions or comments on the first presentation of Ms. Rochella's presentation? Oh, say again. Murph, you had a question? Attorney Murphy? No? Okay.
No, I'm all set, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, your box lit up, so again, this is the Hollywood Squares right now, so I didn't know if it was like a bonus question. We'll go, we need a little levity. We'll go to Paul Foster, AKA Stats, for the second presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So these are some of the tools, just for your awareness, these are the tools that we have recommended to our educators to use to support their remote learning activities. I will say we're not putting our teachers in a position of saying you have to use these and only these, because we want our teachers to have some latitude about what tools are the right tools for their class, their content, their students. But these are the tools that we are recommending. So for example, video conferencing, which is obviously a big topic, we're recommending Teams. I think it's really important for the school committee to be aware that we have also said, regardless of any video conferencing platforms, no video conversations with students should be recorded, because all of these video conferencing platforms have that ability. We've made that clear in our remote learning plan. And you can see we have a number of tools available for messaging, because communication during this time is clearly critical. And then for posting content, sharing files, giving and collecting assignments, our primary tools are Microsoft Teams and Unified Classroom. But again, so those are the recommended tools, and they're tools we're providing a lot of virtual help sessions for teachers, and we've had a lot of people sign up. We've had virtual help sessions all week this week, and have had 40, 50, or 60 educators in each one of those. So we're providing opportunities for educators to increase their skills with some of these tools. Shifting to the laptop distribution, again, much like the remote learning, we wanted to have some guiding principles about, what is the why in terms of doing this. And clearly the first and most important was ensuring that all students, K-12, have a computer they can use at home. We had a registration process. We did ask families that if they already had a computer at home, that their child could use for schoolwork, not to register, because as you all know, we're a district that is 1-to-1 laptop ratio 3rd to 12th grade, but we wanted to be able to extend this down all the way to kindergarten. So that's why the messaging was that if you already had a laptop, we're asking you not to register. Internet connectivity, I think we're grateful, I think, for support from partners when it comes to that. We already had Sprint hotspots available to high school students. And so that was, nearly all of our high school students who had previously self-identified as not having internet at home were able to be provided with a Sprint hotspot. And then Comcast has been very helpful to us on 2 fronts. The Xfinity Wi-Fi network, excuse me, which is a network that is available across most of Springfield as a Wi-Fi network, is available at no cost during this emergency. So normally you have to sign in with your Comcast account and you have to be a customer. They've waived that during this period of time. And they've also made their Internet Essentials program free for 60 days for anyone who signs up by April 30th. And so we're also messaging that out to our families. That's the program that Comcast has that normally is $9.95 a month internet if you have, if you qualify for free or reduced lunch, and they're making that free for 60 days. Obviously, we wanted to make sure our distribution was consistent with public health guidelines, was quick, simple, and we did make a decision in consultation with the school committee around suspending collection of the $20 take-home fee. Our process and timelining, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but we waited a little bit before we kicked this off because right when we first closed, the messaging from the state was we'd be back in session by April 7th, and we wanted to be a little careful about broadly distributing laptops if there was any chance we were going to be back within 3 weeks. We messaged to families, and Azelle has been fantastic in messaging out to families about how to access the laptop program. Families could register through April 1st. We then provided lists to the schools, and every school was basically there were 2 options for families at every school. They could do a drive-through pickup if they had access to a vehicle, or we would deliver to their home. And so that process we're in the midst of that now. We've had 4 days of pickup appointments this week and 3 days of deliveries. Monday will be the last day of drive-through pickup, and Monday and Tuesday are the last 2 days of delivery from schools. I should say, sorry, before I move to the next one, just to say that bullet at the end, we are not done. So there are certainly families who didn't get the message and didn't register to receive a laptop prior to April 1st. What we're saying for families that still need a laptop for their child to be able to participate in remote learning, we're asking that they call their child's school, and each individual school, we're hoping that that's, the number who still need one should be pretty small at this point because we've given out 10,000. But they can call their child's school, and each individual school will be making arrangements to make sure families who don't yet have a laptop can get one. This is the laptop distribution schedule. I just wanted you to see it. So we split the schools up, so we weren't trying to do this at every school every day. For those who are viewing, in the viewing audience, I do want to say the most current schedule is on our district's Facebook page. So this has been a fluid process. We're changing as needs change. And so anybody who's seeing the schedule on the screen, I would encourage you to check the Facebook page if you're wondering what the delivery or pickup date is for your child's school. So the numbers, we know that we had probably, it was probably more than 5,600, closer to 6,000 laptops that were already part of our take-home program prior to the coronavirus closure. The reason I have the 5,600, that's the number of SPS student laptops that actually have been used by our students since we closed and prior to distributing more laptops. So we know that 5,600 were actually already in use, but probably more like 6,000 were actually in students' homes. So we received 9,900 requests. It's worth noting that a large number of our requests came from kindergarten 1 and 2, which were grades that we weren't previously part of our 1-to-1 or our take-home program. 7,700 of the laptops were picked up by, or going to be, were or will be picked up by a drive-through, and 2,100 are being delivered out to homes. We also, next week, will be delivering laptops, and I should have said, you know, all this delivery work is possible because of the partnership with Vanpool. So Vanpool has been providing vans and drivers to take SPS staff who've signed on and volunteered to be part of this work, taking them out on the road for these deliveries. And so next week, we'll also be taking vans outside Springfield to various homeless shelters outside Springfield that are serving our students to make sure they have laptops as well. Support, this is a big question. So now that we have we will have around 17,000 laptops out in the community, what do students do if they're having trouble? And so we did send directions home with the laptops. There's some initial steps for troubleshooting that we're putting out. And again, Azel's been great. We've put a lot on social media already in terms of ways to troubleshoot simple or common laptop problems. We're actually going to be posting via our social media videos as well. So sort of video walkthroughs of, if this happens, here's something you can try. If students need a replacement charger, so if their power cord isn't working, they can contact their school. Ultimately, and again, thanks to Vanpool for their support with this, we are going to be setting up, this is not in place yet, so for those who are viewing, we're close to having this ready to go, but there will always be a subset of laptops that my team will be doing a lot of support remotely and communicating, and students will be able to access this IT help team on Microsoft Teams that should be available by Monday. They'll be able to ask questions, and my team will provide help, as much help as we can remotely, and there's a lot of things we can fix remotely. There will be a subset of laptops that just need to be replaced. And so we'll be partnering with Vanpool again. We'll have a process by which after, and I want to emphasize this, after a student or family has gone through a series of troubleshooting steps with my team remotely, if none of that helps, then we would invite them to complete a quick form to request a replacement. And we're going to coordinate with Vanpool to bring a replacement laptop out to that home, bring back the one that needs to be repaired so my team can repair it. Just to highlight, I shouldn't end with the risks slide, but just to highlight, I just want to be honest and clear about some of the challenges that we could run into. So one is that there's a significant network load, and the reason for that, just so we're all clear, when student laptops are going home, it's not as though they're just going out to the internet. Whenever a student on their home laptop tries to go to a website, that traffic is going right back through our data center, because that's where our content filters are, which we're required by federal law to make sure we're filtering our laptops against objectionable content. And so what that means is we have, we have to pay attention to how much load is going through our data center. And so that's, my team has been working very hard to sort of increase capacity as well as put some things in place that will reduce and minimize that load, but it's something we're paying close attention to. I already talked about support for student devices. And then something just to be cognizant of is we have been very thorough about documenting who's taking laptops and documenting what serial numbers have been provided to what student and all of that. But I think it's reasonable to think that moving as quickly as we have, and with the volume of laptops that we have going home, there is a likelihood that we'll experience over time somewhat of an increase in theft and loss. But I think the good news is, with the take-home program already in place in Springfield, our theft and loss rate was at or slightly below 1%, which I think is very good. And so even if we have an increase from that, it's still not a tremendous number. And that is the update on the laptop distribution.
Cool. Thank you very much, Mr. Foster, AKA Stats. Any questions or comments from our school committee members? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I do. So Mr. Foster, if a family does not qualify for free and reduced lunch, are they responsible for a cost of anything?
No, they're not. I mean, I think I did mention in the context of the Comcast Internet Essentials program that the $9.95 internet program is available for those who qualify for free or reduced lunch. And right now that program is free. My understanding, though, is that because our district is community eligibility, 100% of our students get free and reduced lunch. So I believe 100% of our students qualify for that program.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to make a comment, sir.
Naylor?
I just want to commend Paul and his team and just all the great work that's being done across the district. This is a huge undertaking, and I don't think people really understand it, and especially being, you know, kind of rubbing shoulders with other school committee members across the Commonwealth and knowing that we are one of the few districts already that even have this as an option, one-to-one, but then for us to be able to have 10,000 computers going out to families, and it's just an amazing feat. And so I'm just really happy. And I think I was telling Dan this the other day, I'm very proud to say that I'm a part of this school committee because we're doing phenomenal work here in our district. And it's really important to make sure that people really understand the gravity of this and the fact that it is not, you know, a walk in the park, but you all are doing it so graciously that some people might mistake it for being easy, and it's not. And so I just wanted to say that kudos to you and everybody that's involved. And I, you know, this is the way we do it together. So anything that we can continue to do to support, I'm sure each and every one of us school committee members feel the same way.
Thank you, Ms. Naylor. And I'd have to say with Vanpool, the same thing. They stepped up for me or stepped up for us when we were going through the tornado days too on it. So any other questions or comments on Mr. Foster's presentation stats?
I can say that it was an incredible logistical challenge.
Mr. Mayor?
Figuring this out. So.
Oh, wait a minute, who'd I miss?
Miss Denise, can you hear me?
Denise.
Oh, yeah.
Now your box lit up.
So, no, I echoed Ms. Naylor's sentiments, and I wanted to ask because not only have I heard from other school committee members, but just being in higher ed, I know I got several questions from people around how are you guys doing that? And Chris and I were able to have a conversation, and Paul was gracious enough to send me over some information. But it's just making me think about the future, and that, you know, everything that we're reading says that things are going to look really differently once we get on the other side of this. And so I just wonder if we can begin to think about how we might expand this to those lower grades, right? To the kindergarten, first and second graders. I know that they weren't involved in the initial part of this initiative because we started with third grade, but because they have now gotten a taste of it, what might this look like for us budgetarily? And might we think about including them in that We Learn process, or in a part of that We Learn project?
It's an excellent point, and
Nice,
we'll need to, Paul, we'll have to start projecting some costs to go down even deeper and see what that'll do to our annual line. We get to the end of the year, we might have some rollover money, so we might be able to do it right for next year, depending upon what we have left over out of the budget. And I really believe that you've hit on something, Mrs. Hurst, because what it's been is reticence. It's a new technique and people were leery of it. They didn't want to necessarily, now they're being forced into trying it. And so not only will the kids be more willing to do it, the staff that might have been a little afraid of it before are now all using it. I think this will do nothing but increase the activity of having laptops and being able to follow up with work at home and doing extended projects at home. I think this is, out of everything that's bad comes something good. And I think that's what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and at the K1 and 2, we had invested heavily. We did the one computer for every 2 students. So we're halfway there on the one-to-one for them, but there was a lot of computer use already going on. So that next step is something that we've been talking about.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney Murphy, your box was lighting up a couple times. Did you have any comments or questions?
No, Mayor, I don't know why that's happening. I
didn't know if you're Paul Lynn or Charlie Weaver on the old Hollywood Squares there. So, thank you guys very much. I appreciate all you guys. And I have to say, I just noticed this is a historic first for our Springfield School Committee, this virtual meeting, but I am using the gavel, and it's very special for the Vice Chair Collins, Edward W. Collins, Chairman 1950 Springfield School Committee. So how do you like that, Chris? Thank you very much.
Made by our Putnam trade students.
Made by the Putnam Trade
High School.
Trade
Right.
on that. So that's another.
Stood the test of time.
How do you like that? Okay, if there's no other questions pertaining, this was a combination of the computer laptop distribution update and the remote learning update. We'll move to C, which is the budget update. Superintendent Warwick, please.
So I want to turn it over to Pat.
Why don't you move up here so you can be seen on screen?
CFO Pat Roach.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to give a brief update on the budget. So we're proceeding as is with the budget and the plan we had originally. You know, the budget that we presented to the school committee already went with the governor's numbers. And at this point, those are the only numbers out there, so they're the best numbers we have to work with. The House isn't even meeting right now, and so they're not even having discussions about any specifics. And they sound like they want to wait till they have a better idea on what the state revenue situation is. So we decided to go forward with the governor's budget, and we're going to follow the calendar that we already had planned. So the calendar you just voted on, the only change we have is that now our meetings are going to be online. So we do have a balanced budget at this point, and we're proceeding as is, following that calendar. We'll be distributing to the school committee soon the summary of significant changes, so you'll be able to see the update to the budget by department and any changes that are in there. It will include the Student Opportunity Act funds. So we got the Student Opportunity Act funds, we built them into the budget, and we distributed them all out to the schools, and they all made their own plans. But all the Student Opportunity Act funds will be in the budget as well.
Can I, Mr. Roach, can I just indicate too, in my early morning cabinet head meetings, Superintendent Warwick, on his update, with a couple, we've had Senator Welch and Senator Lesser too, and we made it clear about the Student Opportunity Act, where the number really is not 14 million.
No.
It's only 3 that
Right.
the city of Springfield school system received, and we, you know, that can be looked at within reason when they put the budget together or in the conference committee. So the superintendent put that forth as with my CAFO TJ Plan and Pat Roach. So that was that last? I don't remember the days anymore.
Yeah, no, we just talked about that, but we really lobby every opportunity we get to lobby the legislature. We're taking it to fight for the Opportunity Act to be funded as it was intended. That cut of 14% to 4%, you know, on poverty really hurt Springfield. It was $11 million. So we view that as money that should have come to our kids, and we've kept the fight going on that.
I'm sorry, Pat.
So the SOA funds are in our budget, and like the superintendent and mayor just said, we absolutely plan on continuing to pressure the legislature to fully fund what the governor didn't put in his budget, which is what was in the Student Opportunity Act for the low income rate. We do have contingency plans in place in case the revenue comes in higher or lower. So we have a plan A, B, and C if anything changes as the state goes through their budget process. But I don't believe the state's going to have their budget done in July. I mean, they didn't have it done in July last year, and they started much before this. So the chances of them, we need to have our school budget done before that. So I think the most prudent thing for us to do is to follow this calendar. And then just if the state number doesn't come out exactly as is, we'll make any adjustments in September. We'll do a supplemental or an amended budget in September.
But we've worked out different scenarios. Should we get the Opportunity Act, or should we get some cuts? We have different contingencies all laid out.
Well, also just to let you know, I know on the city side, we're pursuing it as we did with the other natural man-made disasters. Any type of reimbursements, grants we can receive, whether the FEMA, MEMA, and so is the superintendent.
Yeah.
Anything we can, any dime that we can claw back, we're going to go after again as we've done in the past, and then we'll see what happens.
And in the federal legislation, just some of the materials we received from the congressman's office, there is relief for the city level and education at the city level.
Yeah.
And that's what happened during the last recession.
Yeah.
We did get relief from the feds on that.
Mm-hmm.
The IRA at the time helped us a lot. So they're talking about something like that being available again, should this go on longer. So we're looking at all those contingencies.
I'll open it up, if Mr. Roach is done, I'll open it up to any questions from school committee members or Vice Chair Collins, who chairs budget, does a great job, has anything to say or any.
Pat covered everything that we need, we just covered our contingencies. Should we go forward, doing the budget the way we did, our adjustments will be easier going forward. Hopefully we don't have to. But
Vice Chair Collins. Ms. Hurst.
Have we incurred a lot of expenses due to this unexpected circumstance?
Yes, we have incurred a significant amount of expenses. A lot of extra cleaning supplies, overtime hours for cleaning when that first started, things around the remote learning and printing, things that weren't in the budget. The mayor has actually set up an account for us to charge these unforeseen expenses to.
I'm gonna go after every dime. Every dime.
Okay.
I know on my side, and I think Jen, was it maybe earlier in the week or later, we had already spent nearly $700,000, which is much more than that now, and I already lost $1 million in revenue.
Wow.
So if you that's 1.7 right there. Yeah. So we're probably over 2 million now.
So nowhere near what on the city side, but we do have extra costs. But again, we're hoping to get reimbursement. Pat, keeping track of every penny of it. As you can see.
We have what's called the COVID-19 or coronavirus munis. You guys are the whiz kids on this budgetary thing. Anything to do with our relief and recovery response to this pandemic is in that budgetary munis, so we know. We're tracking everything, so we try to go after as much reimbursement as possible.
Pat, at this point, do we need to make any transfers from sections of the budget? Are there any that are having shortfalls, and if there are, will we have them ready to vote on for our next meeting?
We are not projecting any shortfalls because any of these larger expenses that were unforeseen, we are charging to a special account that the city set up specifically for this, that the mayor and TJ Plant had set up for this.
Ms. Gresham, I'm sorry, the box was going on. Did you have a question or comment if Ms. Hurst is done?
No, I didn't. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Pat or Vice Chair Collins, anything else on the budget? Okay. Nope. Any other questions or comments on the budget? Okay, hearing none, we'll move the reports of, thank you, Pat. We'll move the reports of standing committees, student relation, parent concerns. Ms. Gresham?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Barbara, please tell Janice I said hello. Hope she's feeling well too.
I will. Thank you.
Buildings and Maintenance Committee, Mr. Collins?
No formal report, although there's, like Pat said, there's been a lot of extra supplies gotten out for the schools. The custodians are doing a great job. They even helped with sterilizing the computers and things to get them out to kids. So they've stepped up well. All of our employees have been phenomenal through this.
The custodians are actually sterilizing the fire stations to keep our first responders, everything out of trouble.
We're doing,
we are one city.
Yep.
Just a side note on that, and because Dan's in the Superintendent Ward, the Article 97 is, and I want to thank Senator Lesser and Senator Welch, has been very helpful on Barbara on the DeBerry school, the DeBerry Homer school situation. That is, I think that it's engrossed now too, so that's moving. We've been working behind the scenes.
That Article 97 is now moving through the Senate, so that's going well.
But Senator Welch have been very helpful. I appreciate that. Any comments or questions on Vice Chair Collins? Okay, hearing none. Legislative and Contracts Committee, Ms. Perez?
No report at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Curriculum and Programs Committee, Ms. Hurst?
No report at this time, your Mayor.
Budget and Finance, Vice Chair Collins?
We've covered all that issue already. Thank you.
Thank you. Vocational Education Committee. Now, I'm sure that Attorney Murphy, because we're on this virtual thing, probably has a 45-minute presentation.
Yeah, I got at least an hour, Mayor, if you don't mind.
We need to laugh. Attorney Murphy, any report?
No report. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Technology Committee, Ms. Naylor.
No report, sir.
Thank you. School Safety Committee, Ms. Gresham.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Special Subcommittee Staff Demographics, Ms. Perez.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perez. We will now, report of the student representative. That's our pal, Benny the Jets, Benny Caban from Conservatory of the Arts. And Benny, if you're watching, we miss you, and we hope you and your family are healthy. So we'll move to the report of Superintendent Warwick, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to say what I said to my staff today. We've been doing all our meetings on Zoom, and just proud to be able to work with them. They've been absolutely incredible. I think the logistical piece with the lunches, with the whole laptop distribution, the remote learning, the staff's been absolutely incredible, and all of our staff is stepping up at every level. I'm very, very proud of them. There's been a lot of speculation on MCAS and who can do what relative to changing MCAS. The truth is the commissioner is going to probably make a recommendation to the legislature, but because MCAS was part of the law, the legislature is going to have to approve the recommendation. There's been a lot of speculation. I still don't know what's going to happen with MCAS. They could modify it. They could cancel it for this year. We just don't know yet, and we're waiting to see what's finally decided with that. So we'll keep you up to speed as we get. I'm in another meeting with the commissioner on Monday morning. Our feeding program just today, and now we're up to 17 sites, and this week we've been serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We served over 5,000 students just today, 60,000 meals, because we're doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we're doing, we're starting the snacks Monday. And, providing that for 4 days, because we're providing for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as well as today. So 60,000 meals today. So that was incredible. Central basketball, we went down to Worcester, watched the team. They beat a really good St. John's team and qualified for the state finals. They didn't get to play in the state finals, so they are, state co-champs. So very, very proud of them. They were absolutely extraordinary. And there's a contracts report in your package, and if you have any questions on the contracts report, just call Pat or I.
Any questions?
That concludes my report,
Superintendent's report?
Just the law that the governor put in passed
special
authority. Right.
Special power.
Did that law pass?
I'm not sure if it passed, and I'm not sure what he's going to recommend for sure now. So,
right.
So I'll get people information. There's lots of speculation out there, but I haven't seen a hard and fast decision.
But when I read through that legislation, and it did take it out of the legislature's hands and it put it into the commissioner's hands. I just don't know. I didn't see that they took a final vote on that legislation or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Chris, are you referring to the MCAS?
Yes, I am. In the law that the governor put in a law that did a lot of things. It did with open meeting laws and extended timeframes. Like I'm on Conservation Commission. Right. We have a 21-day requirement that we have to hold. That all got extended. Oh, yeah. But within that legislation was also part of it was giving the Commissioner of Ed
sweeping powers
over MCAS for him to make the decision and pull the legislature out of it. I just don't know if that passed.
Agreed. So I guess my question, Mayor, if I may, is to the superintendent, and that is that considering the amount of time that we've been out of school, do we feel like our kids are adequately prepared to take the MCAS? And if we go further out than what we're already slated to, does it make sense for them to take it? I know that there's I received an email from the SCA. I don't know if anybody else has, but there's a lot of talk around asking folks to advocate for it to be canceled. And so I guess it would just be helpful to hear from you about what the thought is from you and your cabinet around our student preparedness.
No, it's a great question. Obviously, with this much time loss and all the change and the fact that we're going to lose more time, I think it would be unreasonable to proceed with MCAS at this time. So if it was up to me, I'd cancel it. I think Jeff Riley will get there. I just haven't seen what that decision is going to be yet, so I don't want to speculate. They talked about different opportunities, modifying it, give something early next year. To me, the right recommendation would be to cancel it for this year and then just give it again in the spring next year. There's been too much lost time. You'd be comparing it to last year and the kids just haven't had the time on learning and instruction. So I think my guess is that they're going to cancel.
It may be a moot point if we're not scheduled to hit the peak until 20th of April or even later perhaps.
Right.
And then you've still got the down. My guess is school's not going to start on the 4th of May. It's going to be closed longer. It could be the entire year.
Right.
But it probably, even if it goes half the month, it will have been beyond the testing window that we would normally have for MCAS anyway.
Yeah, the other talk was, there was talk of modification of the test window and perhaps putting it into the fall. But again, I don't think that's a good decision. I think there's too much lost learning time. Plus then you have the summer learning loss that occurs. So I think that, but there's been all kinds of speculation. My guess is it'll end up being canceled. They're not going to have any choice, but I haven't seen anything definitive yet. I'm on a conference call with the commissioner Monday. There might be something firm by then. As soon as I know something, I'll get it out to you.
Thank you.
But it's a great question.
Any other questions?
All of our teachers are asking that question.
Superintendent's report?
Just a comment on, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor, if I could say one thing.
Attorney Murphy, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, if I could, I mean, I might be in the minority on this, but I, with 3 children in the district, I would like to see them take the test to see how they're doing, and we would be able to understand how this, their lack of attendance at school has affected their MCAS performance. My understanding is that it wouldn't count potentially towards, the district's goals. But also, I was wondering if we're canceling all of this, we're canceling obviously 2 vacations, school, potentially the end of this year. Is there any talk about bringing kids back to school earlier than the end of August or beginning of September, maybe 2 or 3 weeks earlier, so they would have that instructional time to be,
The other day on that.
No, I haven't heard any talk about that because there'll be tremendous costs. We'd have to negotiate that with the union for the extra. Each day would cost us a positive fortune coming back early because it wouldn't be built into our budget. So there hasn't been much speculation about that. There's still a shot too, we can run a robust summer program to make up for some of the lost learning time. So we'd be looking at trying to do something with that. Hopefully we come back in before the year's over and we can get some time in with kids. But again, I think with what's lost already and what's going to be lost, because I don't believe we're going to be back at May 4th, I don't think just the time it takes to administer the MCAS, it would be reasonable in that time. Never mind the fact that the kids have been out of school for such a long time. I don't think the results would be valid. So I don't expect the commission is going to make a decision to go ahead with MCAS. But I think that to add to the school year, there hasn't been any talk about that across the state at all because the enormous cost that would incur.
So may I ask a question?
Thank you.
Let me go to Ms. Naylor and then I'll go to Vice Chair Collins. Attorney Murphy, you're all set?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so my question around the MCAS, and I think I asked you this question already, Superintendent Warwick, a few days ago, but it really is around the seniors in the MCAS. If anyone did not pass it yet.
Yeah, the competency determination is something that still has yet to be decided by the commissioner. It's an excellent question. I should have brought it up. He hasn't made a decision on that yet either. So I'm expecting a decision on both of those things. So for the kids who had not passed in 10th grade but had opportunities to retake and still had not passed, now that they have missed some opportunities for retake, is he going to waive that competency determination and give them a diploma? And there's talk about that. My expectation is he probably will, but we haven't had a final ruling on that yet. But the competency determination is a key issue. thank you for bringing that up again.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
That also was addressed in that legislation, the competency piece, and they put it clearly in the lap of the commissioner.
I can't see how he doesn't intervene on the behalf of kids on that one and waive that because they haven't had time. And they would have passed all their courses to get the diploma. So that would be the reasonable course of action. And my expectation is Commissioner Riley will do that. But when I get a final decision, I'll certainly communicate that to you.
Thank you. And I wanted to add to that question as well, just in general, as far as graduation is concerned. I know that, you know, some of the talk is that social distancing will still be very much in effect through August. And so with that being the case, even a lot of our colleges have decided to postpone or cancel commencement services. And so I'm just wondering what we're thinking of as far as that's concerned with our students. And yeah.
So I wouldn't recommending canceling at this time. I know our kids are really looking forward to it. I just don't know how it's all going to play out. I think it's all speculation. You know, the last few days have been talking about the curve flattening. So maybe all the pieces that have been put in place will allow us to get back by that time and be okay. Like to hold the graduation if we can, but if we can't, then we'll have to make a decision around that.
Now, would there be a possibility of, if we had to cancel in June, postponing and doing it at a later date, or would it just be cancel and that's it?
We'd have to work through that. You know, again, a lot of times, a lot of kids are going to go away to school at some point, so we'd have to work through those details, and we'll have to put some thought into that and talk about that.
We're going to try, Ms. Naylor, we're going to try to, that's a special time for students and families, and it's a special time for us. No matter what type of day we're having, it rejuvenates us. We got to see how it plays out here, but if we can somehow be creative.
If we can find a way to do it, I'd love to do it for the kids. The kids have been sending me emails on it, and they'd love to see us still go forward if we can.
I commend the superintendent.
I still think there's some hope.
I commend the superintendent. We still want to see, I think the next 10 days or 2 weeks are telltale. You know, we will defeat this virus and get over this, but I think next 10 days, 2 weeks can tell us what we're looking for, moving away from the relief now to recovery. What's the time frame? But if we can do it, Ms. Naylor, we'd really love to find a way to do it.
Yeah, not just graduation. We're talking proms and senior banquets, and those are rites of passage. You just can't get those back. My heart goes out to anyone who's a senior in high school this year or college.
I feel really bad for our seniors. We've heard a lot from the kids, and we feel really bad for them. So we're going to try to do the best we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all want to bring back our the powder blue tuxedos with the ruffled shirts and everything, you know.
I'm going to continue to do some research on my end just to see what other districts are doing around the country, because I know there's something that people will probably think of that might be catchy that maybe we could think about as well. But I agree. I'm just kind of devastated a little bit for our students, and so many of them have worked so hard to get here, and now to not have that opportunity to celebrate with their families is really tragic.
Thank you, Ms. Naylor. Any other questions or comments pertaining to the superintendent's report?
May I just ask one question? I'm sorry, and I should have asked Chris when he was giving his subcommittee report. Is the construction on Brightwood and Lincoln still happening, or did that pause?
No, so it's still going on. Yeah. Most of the trades are still working. I think one group went off. One group the Carpenters Union, but all the other unions are still working, so the project's still moving forward. And we were really ahead of schedule, so it's still progressing well.
We're trying to keep a balancing act here, following all the guidelines, health guidelines that the governor's put forward, and Helen, what we're doing here to try to keep projects going, and we're monitoring that. It's a balancing act. Again, many of I've asked, like we have on the school side, we're working. So as long as they're following the proper procedures and health stuff, we're trying to move forward because we're on timelines, number one. Number two, there's a cost factor to this too. But that, as Maria, I'm sure Maria monitors it every day. So work is continuing there.
Now, they're still making progress, and a delay, of course, everyone gets nervous about because the costs just keep escalating. So we're trying to keep on track.
We also brought up to, good point, Superintendent Warwick just jarred my memory now, with Senator Welch and with Senator Lesser about if something was to continue to go on or construction was delayed, couldn't go forward, for the MSBA needs to look at this cost-wise, how they're going to be able to supplement if needed. Any other questions of the superintendent's report? Okay. Murph, your box lit up.
No, I'm fine. Thank you, Mayor. I'm good. Thank you.
He keeps moving his phone.
All right. We'll move to unfinished business. Say again, unfinished business. Okay, hearing none. New business. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chair Collins. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by everybody. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Listen to each and every one of you and to your families, to our viewing audience. Stay healthy. Thank you for what everybody is doing day in and day out, from our teachers, administration, down the rank and file custodians, our students and families. And happy Passover, happy Easter. I promise you, it's done before.
Mr. Mayor.
We'll get through this together for the better and as one. Yes, Ms. Gresham.
Yes, thank you, and also Commissioner Harris for what you all have been doing for the community.
There's a reason
keeping
why
us updated.
I call her the eloquent and elegant Commissioner of Health and Human Services. Danny's in those other, so it's a stress, but we have a few laughs once in a while because you need that levity. So, but thank you, because we are doing a lot of things. We're far from perfect, but we are doing a lot of things that other cities and school districts have not yet been able to accomplish. So, God bless you all. Thank you.
Aids to Focus Springfield.
Take care, everybody.
Okay.
Good night.
And there it is. Ed Collins. There's the right there. 1950, baby.
Hang the gavel.